Option of a common curriculum, federally incentivized but not funded. This is all the money that we have. The goal is to align 85% of all district, county, school curricula by 2015. Language arts literacy and mathematical literacy are central to this reform. It is separated into really two parts, K-8 and the 9-12, which you can't see here unless I move this, is I believe this would be good for RV. And I say that for one reason. First of all, are there ways it's bad for RV? Of course, but we're not going to turn it around, so let's just move on. Why is it good for RV? We do receive students from 5 different schools, and they endure 5 different experiences, okay? And each school, I think, believes, and well-meaning people, and some really great educational leadership happening in all those schools, that they're doing it the right way. We're finding students arriving at all different places in math and language arts, and then we're forced to do remediation and placement based on what data we derive. So this will homogenize the K-8 experience in the schools that send to RV, and that is a good thing. What is not common core is pedagogical practice. Teachers will still apply their craft in a way of our collective choosing. Leadership and teachers working together on what works best for kids. And we will continue to be an evidence-based school, data-driven, using best practices, as we are now. Refining, constantly refining. It does not govern interventions. That will be up to us. We still will be responsible for every student in our care for meeting their needs, whether it's an intervention or acceleration. And for the high school, I guess I'm afforded the right to be a bit more enthusiastic, because for a K-8 school where there is nothing but the core curriculum, this is very didactic. It's just given to you. Go deliver it. We, as you know, those of you who have had students here, and if you hadn't, offer a rich curriculum, well beyond English and math. And even within those 2 departments, rich electives in a variety of things. Those were not covered by Common Core. What this new program is going to create are domains, clusters, and standards. The domains are the larger groups of related standards. The clusters are slightly smaller related standards. And the standards themselves are the finite elements students should know and be able to do. That isn't really revolutionary, but that's the language of Common Core. And I think the other thing about this that I like is even as schools, and we're one of them, our curriculum is fairly overt, as it should be, because it belongs to the community. This will, I think, make it incredibly accessible to all. Parents will be truly empowered as partners to know exactly what is happening vis-a-vis the core curriculum every day. This is an example of one piece of this, and this is actually a K-8 example, 3rd grade math. And I bring this to your attention because it's ambitious, but I've been to one training along with Jean-Marie Seal, who was the language arts supervisor. I went, ironically enough, on behalf of the math department. These are my fabulous math acumen. This is a 2-year acceleration of anything currently happening in 3rd grade. And the same goes for the high school. The things they're asking 9th graders to do, we are typically doing in the junior year. Not we RV, we high schools. Okay? That has been the largest takeaway, is that these are ambitious. And it's not that anybody thinks that we can't do them, but of course it'll take 10 years to sort of wash this through the system, because there are those students, for instance, my children who are in 2nd grade, so they'll be in my oldest will be in 4th grade when this thing comes online, and the 4th grade standards, there'll be a gap between what the current New Jersey, which are good standards, and what these new Common Core standards are. So that's going to be a challenge, a lot of school-based remediation. This would be the 9 to 12 math approach, very conceptual. These are the 6 areas of focus. The goal is a more coherent math experience. Functions, for example, is a theme that crosses all courses, so it wouldn't belong in, like, say, just algebra or just geometry. It would be like a thread. My own department in history has been doing this for years. Power can be a theme through all history. The role of women can be a theme through all of history. Labor, military prowess. This is what we're doing now with math, which is probably a good thing. And these are mathematical practices, and these are are based on, I think they speak to the biggest criticism of current high-stakes testing, which is the testing itself is mundane and probably not appropriate to measure all the things that we value in our students, which is in many cases what we're measuring is test-taking ability, not mathematical ability. So I think this is going to give us opportunities to measure higher order thinking and some sort of verbal acuity and mathematical agility, which we don't now do. It's just kill, right? Okay, here's an example of the language arts anchor standards in reading, and they have anchor standards for reading, for writing, for communicating. And again, language arts is organized a little differently, whereas math is K to 8, and then 9 to 12. Language arts is K to 5, and then 6 to 12. This will be grade 9 students, the integration of knowledge and ideas. And this is just to give you an example of some of the things that we'll be measuring. And again, there's no doubt in my mind that our 14 and 15-year-old cherubs can do this. They just haven't been asked to yet. But they're highly capable. And this is not just me being sort of bullish on kids, but I'm guilty of that. When we set the bar and then provide the commensurate support to achieve whatever goals we have set out for students, they will get there. The key is going to be that support. Schools are traditionally better at having more chutes than ladders. We're going to need to build some more ladders into our consciousness, into our program, into how we support students, because this is going to create a chasm between those students that are in many cases sort of self-driven, self-motivated, deeply supported in other venues, and then those that are not. All of whom we're accountable for on the exact same level. And here are the language arts anchor standards for writing. Text type and purpose, production, distribution of writing, research to build and present knowledge, and range of writing. Really heady work. This is neither here nor there, but I'll share it because maybe it might be a question. For me to get behind a huge federal program that's very top-down, command and control, it's not a natural fit for me personally, in education or otherwise. But this debate has been percolating at universities and think tanks, which is when are we going to take the final step of a common curriculum? Because that might be the only way to ensure a rich educational experience for all. I think we pay too much attention to some of these international studies, but we can't be too cavalier about this because, again, funding will be tied to the adoption of and success within these standards, not New Jersey standards. So you can't really be an objector, conscientious or otherwise. We have to get on board and succeed within these standards. And I think we can and will. So what does this mean for this body? I think it means a few things. First of all this testing, the common assessment that will come from this, is all going to be done on a computer. Now, you can imagine with 2,100 students, I haven't done a computer count. I bet Ron can get it within 2, but I'll take the under on 2,100. Would that be accurate? Okay. So we have massive technology needs, and that's going to be an issue. And again, to anticipate the question, there is no funding for this. Now, do we need a one-to-one? Of course not. There'll be a way to sort of roll this, but both the hardware, the software, and to me, most disquieting, the lack of tech support must be addressed here at the school. Okay. In-service and professional development for faculty and leadership. I like to think that we're ahead of this. We've already had several of us go out and be trained, and you approved tonight 3 administrators going to an NJASCD conference. The president of NJASCD is bless you, a guy that I used to actually supervise. He's very, very dynamic and has given me a lot of literature on what's going to happen on these couple of days, 3 days, I believe. And this is going to sort of continue to push us ahead. What I'd like to do is this year begin on a department-by-department basis the slow methodical adoption of some of these standards, okay, and the mentality behind them and how they're going to inform what we do. And there's not a chasm between New Jersey standards and these, but they are different, particularly the pacing is going to be required. And that way, Labor Day 2013, we are not completely overwhelmed by the full ship when we're going to be held accountable to these standards. Now, if you were a betting man, you might want to bet that there'll be an extension. We'll go to 2014 because this is so huge from a technology standpoint, from a professional growth standpoint. The faculty that we have to prepare for this, it's both a blessing and a curse. They're numb to change, which is good because we'll be offering them just one more change. But they're numb to it because it happens at a dizzying pace, and it's hard to get behind the next idea if you don't know it has staying power. I can't see this going away. There's been a steady march from a nation at risk to this point in time, and I believe that we'll be dealing with these for a while until states, find them stifling and begin to opt out, and become maybe some fun differently. But this is here to stay. I'm sorry, did I get through all the things at the end there? Yeah. You just getting kind of bored back there? I heard
You just need jumping ahead there.
Okay, yeah.
that was the last slide. She did. I thought I had one more point on there. Did I get them all?
That's all right. No. Click on the last one.
Last one's changing that.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Tom's reading ahead. And I know what I want to say there, but let me just look at what I wrote so I can.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, okay, wait, and let me just touch on quickly assessment strategies and measurement. This is going to be a complete shift. Everything that we've done vis-a-vis assessment, we had, HESPA, we had this fleeting program called end-of-course assessments. That came and went before we actually utilized them, after we had, sort of prepared ourselves. But the sort of ugly stepsister to Common Core standards is common assessments. 2015, they will be brought online, and as a school, that's how we'll be measured. And you have felt the consequences and the victories of confronting being a failed school and then overcoming a failed school in the early NCLB and the federal government, not in ways that are important to us. But money's important to us. And change management. It's going to take a lot of leadership of the many. I'm all in, but it's going to be, this is much bigger than me. This is going to require an investment on the part of this board, changing how we think about how we're going to fund this, and how we're going to support it, how we're going to measure ourselves. There's the unknowns. We know what we know, but we have to also know that we don't know what we don't know, and that will present itself at the worst possible time. And being sort of nimble to that and open to that, I think is going to be important. But it's going to be a pretty interesting ride, and it is to me again going to define the work of this group for the next 5 to 10 years. So I'll take any of your questions now.
My concern is that every 4 years or so, whether it's federal or on the state level, we have the powers that be want to put their stamp on policies and change things. And it also means that, as I mentioned before, that there are mandates that have no dollars attached to them. You have to do them. You don't have a choice.
The only thing I would say to that, I just get into this point because I understand what you're saying, but if you think about the 4 people I talked about, I think you're getting at sort of shifts in Washington, but you have a right, a left, a center right, and a center left if you were a political scientist evaluating this, all saying the same thing. Standard, and NCLB was unfunded. So this is not this is a bipartisan problem, and I get your concern, but I have personally sat with the state commissioner. They're not helping. There is no money. They're saying this is it. So this one, all we can be is solutions driven.
Okay, my point is this, that we can't simply blindly follow, whether it's federal or state, what these mandates are without running a parallel course that's good for RV and our students, and that is, we know what we need to do, we have the capacity, we have the intelligence, we have the staff to run almost a parallel type programs to move forward, and not every 4 years the federal government says, okay, this is the new plan, so it's radical, so do this one, disrupt what you were doing, or the state comes in and says, okay, this is the new plan, unfund it, disrupt what you're doing, start over again. So we have to think independent while at the same time we have to do these. But we should also have a parallel course of thinking that moves us forward as a district keeping in mind what the mandates are, but at the same time, developing what we know we need to do to move this district forward, move the students forward. So funding or not funding, that's certainly a big part of it, but we can't strictly be locked into these mandates that come and go with the whim of these political winds that change.
You know, it sounds good to me. First of all, you must understand you get 40% of your money from the state, so don't come and really get any money. Okay? But there's nothing wrong with having a common curriculum in the United States so that we compete with other countries. We're like eighth in the goddamn world right now. So I think it's time to put some money and effort in education. Whether they give us the money or it comes out of our pocket, it's got to happen. Okay?
Sure.
Any other comments?
I have no comments about the core curriculum, but in regards to the teacher evaluations, I just wanted to say I support the idea of having a common evaluations in the 5 districts because shared services is something that's pretty important to me. So this is like in a small but also kind of big way we can definitely see it in the training and whatever other associated costs may come with it.
Alex, thank you.
Thank you.
You don't have to go down it?
Okay, Secretary report? Let's see, let's move to committee reports. Personnel committee?
We did not meet.
Property and transportation, just go up to there.
Recommend the board approve the following use facilities.
Need a second? Discussion.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Lino? Mr. Dorico?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. LaPierre?
Yes.
Yes.
Recommend the board of education pay Bowman and Company the amount of $3,000.
I'll second it. What's this for? $44,000 bill.
That is the portion that is charged to, for their, it gets broken, it all gets broken up between the general fund, the capital fund, the cafeteria fund, and this is the, building funds portion of the audit. Yes. And then the cafeteria did pay portion includes it.
You like that?
Yeah. If I can make it smaller, it'd be nice, but.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Lima?
Yes.
Mr. Dorico?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. LaPierre?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, motion carries.
Curriculum committee did not meet.
Extracurricular, Mr. Miller, Mr. Lewis.
We met, discussed the,
Policy.
Well, I'm a member, but I was in absentia of
Let's go ahead, Mike.
guess you can't move. Second reading.
Second reading of policy 9111, qualifications and requirements of board members. Recommend that the Board of Education adopt the second reading, policy 9111, qualifications and requirements of board members. Before I take a motion, open it up for any public comments, since it is a second reading. No public comment, can I have a motion? Mr. Lino,
Second.
second by Mr. Dow. Discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, John.
I'd like to talk about, I-2. I guess the second paragraph with, number 2. The board shall not reimburse. I would like to have that changed to upon request reimburse. I feel that, board members are volunteers. We do above and beyond what we have to. We have to take fingerprints. If a board member wants to get that they can request to have their money reimbursed back to them. If they don't, then they don't need to apply for that. So I would like to see that change.
Further discussion?
Yeah, I concur with John, should be the option of the individual board member. So it may rather